All right, welcome to the No Rockstars Podcast. My name is Sean. This is Jason. And in this first episode, we're just going to introduce things, talk about the purpose of the podcast, as well as have Jason share his story. So, just to begin, the purpose is to dismantle the myth of the superhero Christian and show what faithful everyday Christian life really looks like. So, we're going to be naming real struggles. We're going to talk openly about fears, failures, and weariness. We're going to learn from our failure and each other's failures, and anybody else who's a guest on the podcast. Really, um, here mistakes are part of growing, and we share them so everybody can learn. The purpose is to grow in character together. The conversations aim to help people change and not just confess what's going on. Also, we're creating a safe space here. This is a respectful space for honest stories and practical next steps. Just to define a superhero Christian, this is someone who pretends like they never struggle. They got it all together and they have life all figured out. And really, that doesn't help anybody. So usually the format's going to be, we're going to have a little Bible passage, then somebody sharing a story, and then some Q&A, and then like a lesson learned at the end to tie it all up. So our Bible passage today comes from 1 John 1, verses 6 to 10, which says, "If we say that we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, we lie and do not practice the truth. But if we walk in the light as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Jesus, his son, cleanses us from all sin. If we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. If we say that we have not sinned, we make him a liar, and his word is not in us." And I think I want to just point out that it says, if we say we have no sin, we're deceiving ourselves. So here, we're not going to pretend like we don't have any sin. We're going to lay it out there up front, um, so that we can all learn from one another as we share. So to sum it all up, this is a podcast where honest Christians share our battles, wins and losses, so that we can learn together and encourage one another. Now we're going to move to Jason's story.
Hello, everybody.
So Jason, why don't you start at the beginning for us, man?
Yeah, I will try and keep it brief as I can be, because I tend to go on and on and on. When I was younger, when I was growing up, it was the 90s, and I grew up in a house that didn't go to church. And I was kind of turned off by a lot of the Christians that I met, because there was a lot of holier than thou and judginess that I came across when I was young. It wasn't until I was in high school that I started doing a program called Young Life, which is kind of a Christian youth group ministry that reaches out to high school. I guess they do middle school and high school age kids. And it was kind of the in thing at the moment when it was happening, when I was in high school, to do the young life. And it was a weekly deal where we got to hang out with, our peers. And the ministry leaders were, college students, so they were only a few years older than us. And I really enjoyed that time, and I started to change my opinions about Christianity then. But when high school was over, I kind of, it was muscle memory not to go to church and not to do the living in Christ. So I kind of reverted back to not going to church, and eventually I joined the Marine Corps, and ended up getting cancer while I was in the Marines. I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I spent a year in a naval hospital going through chemo, and the chances of my survival, while not, it wasn't 100% that I was going to die, it was pretty high up there. And during that time, people from home would send me things, prayer beads, I don't even know I'm not familiar with Catholicism enough to know what but I got candles and with Mary on them, and but I personally didn't pray. I didn't, I kind of spent that whole time that I was going through chemo, just kind of ignoring the fact that I was sick and trying to just, stiff upper lip it.
So at that point, like, how old were you when you got the diagnosis?
I was 22, I think.
Okay.
I'm 48 now, so it's been some time. And, it was just one of those, apparently Caucasian males between the ages of 18 and 30 are, prime candidates. And, so I survived, and I was supposed to go home. I was supposed to get a medical retirement, but the doctors filled out the wrong paperwork, and I immediately got sent back to my unit. And to give you a time frame when all this happened, 9/11 happened while I was in the hospital. I actually watched the planes go into the towers, and while I was in the hospital. And so when I went into remission and they sent me back to my unit, that was about the time when the Marines were gearing up to go to Afghanistan the first time. And so I was kind of a fifth wheel. I couldn't go with the Marines. I couldn't really stay on base. I was still reeling from surviving this ordeal, and it had started to catch up to me. And I had a lot of survivor's guilt. And so, I ended up going through a pretty severe depression. At one point, I wanted to kill myself.
So for those who aren't familiar, can you tell us what survivor's guilt is?
Survivor's guilt is when, say you're in a car accident, you're driving, and you survive, but other people don't. And then you start to wonder why you survived. Like, you don't feel like you should have. And for me, it was one of those things where, I was already kind of depressed anyway, so it all just kind of it was magnified, and I didn't feel like I should have made it. I can't explain why I felt that way, but I did.
And you saw other people.
Oh yeah, no, there were other people that I knew who had lesser diagnoses than I had, who didn't make it. So it was definitely one of those things where, why me, and so I ended up. I'm gonna go ahead and air out all my dirty laundry here. I ended up drinking a lot with my buddies after work, and I ended up meeting a girl at a club, and we started dating. And she was into the club scene and did a lot of drugs, but one of the drugs she did was meth. And in San Diego, meth isn't like it is out here on the East Coast. It's not this bathtub stuff that people make up, and it was crystal, like what was that show
Breaking
with
Bad.
Breaking Bad? It wasn't blue, but it looked like that. And I tried it and was hooked after literally one try because I felt like Superman for the first time.
Like what do you mean?
It's it's one of those highs where you have all the energy in the world. You can't sleep. You want to do stuff. You want to be active. And I'd spent, a year and a half, almost 2 years being sluggish and run down. And
So this was the exact opposite.
it was the exact opposite. It felt like, and I wasn't depressed when I was high, at least initially.
Yeah.
And I was around other people, so it was one of those things where it was peppy, and I wanted to, go. So that was instantly, I wouldn't say instantly addictive, but it was instantly like, this is what I want to do. But the downside was, because I was still in the Marine Corps at the time, the Marines do random urinalysis tests, and they were testing everybody they could test before they took off to Afghanistan.
Right.
And I failed a urinalysis, and so I didn't get a dishonorable discharge, but I got an administrative discharge because they wanted to get me out as quick as possible so they could, not worry about me being on base, when they were gone. So I ended up coming back to Virginia from California, working in the restaurant business initially to make money while I tried to figure out what the next thing I was going to do. And at first I went cold turkey, no drugs, no nothing, but eventually working in the restaurant business, you end up finding people who like to go out and party after work.
How old are you at around this time?
Mid 20s.
Mid-20s.
Yeah. Okay. So I got out of the Marines in 2002, the end of 2002. And by 2003, I was back in, it was out here, it was cocaine and not meth, but.
And you're getting this through the hookups through the job.
Right. And I had just quick disposable money from working in the restaurant, bartending and waiting tables. And, I never really got into drinking alcohol all that much. I mean, I did it from time to time, but I was really into the peppy stuff. Well, it's not like this for everybody, but it's like this for a lot of people. Eventually, if you do cocaine long enough, you'll end up doing cocaine in whatever form you can get it. And sometimes when there was no powder cocaine, eventually you get the hard stuff. And, not too many people I know can call themselves a recovered crackhead, but I can. And
like when all of that's happening, you're still working.
Yeah. Well, for the longest time, I was able to juggle. I was clean and sober until 11 o'clock or whatever, and then it was go time.
Right.
And at first I did it once in a while, and then that turned into once every couple of days, and then that turned into every day, and then that it was a progressive thing. And I had no idea that I was cycling the drain until I got to a point where I got evicted from my apartment, my car got repossessed, and my girlfriend dumped me, all in a 24 to 48 hour period of time. And but that didn't stop me. I ended up staying with my dealer on his couch, and kept the party going for a little while longer.
He's not letting you stay there for free.
No. I was actually doing security for him. So I would go out with him when he was making his runs and selling, and I would be packing and just be there with him. That was my job. and my payment was more drugs. And the early morning hours of July 4th, 2005, I cleaned the gun, I loaded the gun, I put the gun in my mouth, and I pulled the trigger, and the gun misfired, and I immediately stopped everything I was doing, and my whole life flashed before my eyes again. I called my mother. You know, when
Where are you living at this point?
On my dealer's couch
Where is that?
in the hood.
Okay. And your mom is like,
She's on the other side of town.
okay,
I wasn't in a different town. I was in the same town.
gotcha.
But yeah, so I called my mom early in the morning. She was getting ready for work, and she had pretty much written me off by that point anyway. So she didn't really want to deal with me. She was like, if you really need something, call your father, you know, after he gets up. So later on that day, I ended up telling my dealer that I was going to go try and get help.
Okay.
And he was all about it. He was like,
Really?
yeah. Because he didn't do drugs. He just sold them.
He just sold them.
So he was like, yeah, you need to get the F off my couch first and foremost, and then do something about your issue. So that's what I did. I called my dad, and he picked me up and took me home. And my sister and her husband were coming over for a barbecue later that evening.
That same day.
That same day, because it was July 4th. And so I had a bunch of drugs left in my pocket. And I knew that no matter what, I was going to either go to a hospital or do something.
Some kind of rehab.
Some kind of rehab. And so I ended up doing all of the drugs I had in my pocket all immediately. And it was cocaine, it was crack, it was methadone, it was like some pills. Like it just
killed you.
Yeah, well, I mean, at that point, my tolerance for drugs was so high. That's probably why I didn't. But if somebody who'd never done them before had done that, it would have killed them for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, my mom came home from work. My sister and her husband came over, and I admitted that I had a problem and that I needed help. And my dad made some calls and was able to get me into a detox immediately. And that detox should have led into a 28-day program, but that got delayed. So I ended up staying, with my parents, and they kind of took turns, one work days, one work nights. And
just watching it.
They made sure that any money that I had, they had control of my bank account. I couldn't spend anything. I ended up working for my dad, and then going to every meeting I could get my hands on. The anonymous meetings, so Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous. I found that I liked the Narcotics Anonymous meetings more than the Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. They're basically identical. It's the same 12 steps. It's just some alcoholics don't believe that addicts are of the same level that they are. So yeah, it's crazy. There's some holier than thou in the Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah,
that's crazy.
And I found that when I was in detox too, there was a guy who was there for alcohol, and the first 2 days he was there, he couldn't do any. He literally stayed in bed and shook for 2 days. Like, he couldn't do anything. Yeah. When he was up and about and going, he was certain that his addiction to alcohol was better than my addiction to crack cocaine. Wow. The things that you believe when you're
when you're under the influence.
Well, that, and when you when you can't imagine a higher power.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that they beat into you initially in the anonymous programs is you have to, like, you are not in control,
Yeah.
obviously, because if you were, you wouldn't be addicted.
Okay.
So one of the first concepts they teach you is to come up with, if you don't want to believe in God or, go to church or whatever, like, at least come up with the concept of something that's a higher, even if it's a doorknob,
Just
like
something greater than you.
something bigger than you. And that's literally everything is bigger than you when,
When you're
when you've
down.
hit bottom.
Yeah.
But so that was like the first baby step towards finding the church. But it would take another 15 years, of being clean and working the program and, seeing results in others who were going to church and building on the concept of a higher power.
Okay.
And
And this is taking place slowly as you're going to these NA meetings.
yeah. Eventually, I had a desire to see what church was all about. That wasn't somebody bringing me to church or, I knew that, I believed in something bigger than myself, but I wanted to find out what it was all about, basically, the church. So my father passed away,
And
and
this is 2020.
it's 2020, and my father passed away, and I helped my mom sell their house and moved with her to the middle of nowhere, to a tiny little burb, and it was on both our hearts individually to find a church. I think for her, something she always wanted to do, but my dad wasn't really big in the church thing. So, with her kind of being independent,
She had that freedom.
she had that freedom to say, I finally I want to go to church. And it had been on my heart for a while to check it out. And we ended up telling each other, independently of each other, that we wanted to find a church. So we end up checking out a bunch of churches in the area. And I drove past the church I go to now,
Yeah.
which is in the building. It used to be, in the 60s, it was a bowling alley.
Right.
And then it became the building that an electrician's company worked out of.
Yeah.
And it was in super disrepair when they bought it, but they built it up to what it is now. And it's super unassuming. Like, if you didn't see the sign out front that said Grace Belt Church,
You wouldn't know.
you would never have known that that was a church. And that drew me to it.
Because you had visited other places. up to
Right.
this
Well, like I said before, I didn't want a steeple. I didn't want wooden pews and hymnals, and I didn't want any snake handling.
point. Okay, so nothing traditional.
Yeah. I wanted something more contemporary, and I found that in where I'm at. So, that was basically me getting to church, and so it's been roughly 5 years now with the church, and something that you notice when you first get clean and sober is they call it the rose-tinted glasses time, when you're learning about a new way of life that's free from the things that are dragging you down. Everything looks rosy for a while,
Okay.
and then and you realize I still have the same issues I had before. Now I don't have my escape from them. So it teaches you have to deal with issues.
Mm.
I think it's the same with the church. Like, you go on Sunday, you feel good for a little while. Right around Wednesday, life catches up to you, and you still have to deal with your issue too.
Sure. Sure.
So that's where I'm at the moment.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you some questions.
Sure.
So you mentioned coming to this church, and in some regards, it checked off the boxes of what you were looking for. It wasn't traditional.
Right. Well, I mean, it's traditional enough, I guess. But it's not. Yeah, it's not. Most people
Sure.
no
Right.
worldviews.
What was it when you arrived? You go through the doors. What was it that stood out to you that signaled to you this is home?
The people really. I if I didn't like the sermons, I probably wouldn't have stayed. So there's that. But it's the interpersonal relationships you build in a church that keep you there. Not so if you go and you just go and you listen and you leave and you don't interact with the people,
Right.
can you really say that you belong to that fellowship?
Sure.
Um, so we lucked out, my mom and I, because one of the parishioners was somebody that my mom used to work with.
Okay.
So we had an in initially.
Did she know that they went to the church?
No, it was a
So you
surprise.
just found out when you
Yeah.
got there.
Yeah, it was a total surprise. And but that opened up some doors almost immediately.
Yeah.
Um,
Like talk through that. Like, what does that mean when here's somebody that your mom recognized? Like, how are these doors opening up? Are they like introducing you to
introducing
people?
me
Okay.
to us to other people, and you know, getting conversations started, you know.
Yeah.
Uh and going to this church was immediately after everything had been locked down with COVID.
Yeah. I remember.
And I still don't think that I have fully gotten myself back from that time period, like where I used to be more conversational. I used to speak better. Um, but not being able to go out and do things and being stuck at home was very isolating. Uh, and you you get to a point where I could go a day or two and not say a word. Well, because who was I other than my mother, uh, who was I going to talk to? So it's been difficult, at least initially, to like get back to where I used to be. Um,
In terms of just like engaging people in conversations.
start get it, having that confidence to just walk up to a stranger and say hi. Where it never used to be an issue for me. Very far. And a lot of that was because I worked in the restaurant business, so you spoke all the time. Um, but yeah, so uh, having that initial in really kind of opened up, meeting other people, and then we made friends with different people in the church, and it's just been kind of and then volunteering at the church really helps open chores in your life too.
Yeah.
Um,
So let's talk about that for a little bit. Here you are. It's 2020, right?
so
2021 now. You've been going to the church for about a year, or for about
you mean before I did my first volunteering?
yeah.
Less than 6 months.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So you haven't been there.
Still fresh to the
Very fresh, right? Um. So what did that look like to step into like serving and like
Well,
what was that
unfortunately, the
process?
first thing that was brought to me was a job called counting, which was uh, counting the
The offerings.
offerings.
Yeah.
And the pastor is the one that actually said, "Hey, they need help here. There's, would you be willing to help? And we need people we can trust." And that was that felt good.
Yeah.
You know,
To hear that. They're looking
yeah,
for somebody that they can trust, and they're looking at you.
they're looking at me, right? Now I've been clean and sober for a decent amount of time by this point, so I'd proven that I could be, a normal human being, but to be considered trustworthy, and the pastor knew my history. I had already explained it all to him.
Yeah, so, like, tell me how that happened. How did that whole conversation happen with the pastor?
Like my history or the
Well, yeah, your history, because he's
well,
coming to you because he knows your
the
story.
first couple weeks that I came,
Okay.
he would catch up with me after, because when my mom and I started, we were the new kids on the block for at least a month.
Sure.
Now there's new kids on the block at the time, so it's different. But um, he made time to speak to the both of us after church to kind of, I don't know, suss us out.
Are these people legit?
Yeah. But yeah, so um, I'd given the Cliff's Notes version, obviously, of my life, but I told him about the
Yeah,
cancer and the drugs and
yeah.
the recovery, and
This is all happening after a service.
yeah, yeah. He doesn't often stay that long these days because his family's bigger. He's got more shit to do. And I totally get that, but it did kind of make us feel special when we first started.
Yeah, that he just made time after service for you guys.
And yeah, so that's how I got here. Um, and it's become, I can't imagine, other than being ill to where I can't,
Yeah.
I don't want to leave the house or get anybody else sick. Like that's the only reason I can think of not to go to church.
Yeah.
Um, I can't imagine it not being a part of my life at this point. But it doesn't make life any easier outside of it.
Sure. Yeah. So if I as I look back over your story, there was like at least like three specific points where God brought someone into your life. Like initially you talked about young life, right? And you were invited by your peers, classmates, right? But I also remember when we were talking about your story recently that while you were in the military, there was also a chaplain.
Yes. Yes.
Can you
Kind
speak
of
to
glossed
that?
over that. So when I was dealing with the depression, the drugs, the survivor's guilt, all that stuff,
Yeah,
um, I had made an attempt on my life, um, unsuccessful, obviously, but that made me talk to one of my sergeants
okay.
and told him how I was feeling, and he pointed me to the
So
chaplain.
the chaplain.
And the chaplain was somebody that I could talk to, that wasn't a shrink, that wasn't in a hospital situation, that I could kind of tell them how I was feeling without, in confidence.
Mhm.
And that was a big help at the time.
Yeah.
And this chaplain uh, had been an enlisted Marine before he became a chaplain. So he kind of had we had a camaraderie that I might not have had it just been, a stuffy Catholic airman or something like that.
Sure, like this guy had the same
Yeah, I
experiences.
would have had no touch points with anybody else. So it was helpful at that point in my life.
Yeah. It was that commonality. Would you say it was that commonality that made it easier to talk with him? Because he had
I
that
think
shared
so,
experience?
at first,
Yeah.
because I was reluctant to talk to anybody about what I was going through. Um, I felt guilty about what I was going through. I didn't tell them about the drug use at the time, okay, because that would have been bad news. But I mean, it ended up being bad news anyway. So, but if I'd have come clean about it before I got caught, then who knows what would happen? What would happen? Um, yeah. Unfortunately, when I did get caught, because I wasn't honest with him about it beforehand, he stopped wanting to talk to me.
Wow.
Uh,
But prior to that,
but prior to that, he was a very very helpful source of uh, knowledge, helpful source of wisdom, and he didn't have platitudes for me. Which I don't know about anybody else, but I hate it when somebody's like, and that's the other thing
yeah,
about
real
recovery. Recovery is filled with platitudes.
right,
There's a lot of "it works if you work it," mm,
right.
"keep coming back, brother."
Right.
Uh,
Which ends up becoming empty.
yeah. Well, it's one of those things where you,
It's
you
noise,
almost say it as a joke after a while.
right?
Yeah.
So would you say in regards to this chaplain, like, did he speak more or did he listen more?
He listened more, and when I kind of ran out of things to say, that's when he would poke and prod at what I would say, or give me an anecdote about something in his life that he could relate to what I was saying. Um, and I think that, like we'd spoken about previously, I think the just being a resource for somebody, um, to be an ear or a shoulder, can be incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a lot easier to get through something that you're dealing with when you know that you're not alone is in it. So I think if I were to have any advice at all, is just to, if you see somebody that looks like they need to talk, approach them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and listen.
And listen. Like, and it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, like when you came to the church where it's your home now, that there were people that made themselves available to listen.
Yes. Yeah.
Even if at the right. But even if at the time you weren't comfortable with saying anything, you knew that these people would be available to hear you out.
Right. And I mean, I can't speak for everybody at the church because I don't really have a close relationship with everybody at the church. But of those I know, yeah, decently, nobody's judgy. There's nothing where, like, you can't approach somebody who you think is going to look down upon you, right? And and I try not to be judgy. Sometimes it's hard. But I've had enough negative aspects of my own life that I can't look down on anybody else.
Right. Yeah. That's all of us, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you could send a message back in time, share something with your family and friends when you were in like your darkest moments. What
Yeah,
was,
that's a tough question.
yeah, what would you?
Rough for that.
I wanted to surprise you
Oh, you got it.
because I'm saying this because, like, uh, as a parent who also had one of my children just like their life went off the rails, um, a lot of navigating that was discovering other people that were navigating it too.
Sure.
And so it was helpful when somebody could share something of the experience that was helpful for them.
Um, well, if I could go back in time to to speak to my parents or whatever about how they dealt with me, and uh, I look back at the way that my father treated me. He never. I felt like my mom had pretty much written me off by the point when I decided to get clean. And had I not decided to get clean, she probably never would have talked to me again. But my father wasn't like that. He was approachable. Um, so if I could go back in time and talk to him, I would say, don't do anything different. You know, um, thank you for not writing me off, because eventually it paid off. But you know, I'm sorry that I put you through what I put you through. Um, yeah, no, if I could go back in time, I would just say sorry, you know, or, from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah,
That's a tough one.
it is. And I think when, as a parent, like when difficult things hit our kids and you see your kids making decisions that are painful to watch, there's a part of you that does want to shut down. There's a part of you that, in order to protect yourself from further pain in watching it, you just kind of like throw all the shields up.
Sure.
So for somebody to say, I see my child still going through these things and I'm going to make myself available to them is a big deal.
It's not the easiest thing to do.
No.
And so I would, if I had a recommendation from being on the errant side of things to you or to anybody else that's dealing with that currently, um, I would say when you can't do it, you can't do things for them. They have to make their own decisions, They have to learn their own lessons, or they never will learn them.
Sure.
And that's one of the things about getting clean, sober, or, deciding to turn your life around in any way is you have to be ready for that. Nobody can tell you that you're an addict.
Right.
You have to make that decision for yourself. So, and nobody can, if you're screwing up, I mean, we all screw up.
Yeah, all of us do.
There's different, levels of it. And as somebody on the other side of it, you want to, and especially for your child, you want to be able to help them. The best way that you can help them is be there when they ask for it.
Yeah.
But not to proactively try and give it, because a lot of addicts will use their parents or whoever wants to give somebody help as a crutch to keep from changing.
Yeah. From making any changes.
Making the changes, because they have somebody who's going to give them money if they need it, or give them food if they need it, or, make sure that they, at least if they don't land on their feet, they land on their butt and not their head.
Right. Yeah. I hear you. I hear you.
And so I don't recommend being proactive. I recommend being reactive and just being available.
Being available.
If and when they realize, okay, I have to make a change. I don't know how to make the change, but I need help making
That change.
But it has to be their
Yeah, they have to come to that conclusion.
Right.
Yeah, that they
Hopefully
need to
they
say
don't
help.
put a gun in their mouth and get a misfire like I did.
Right.
Stranger things that happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if I look back at all the times I almost died but didn't, uh, Yeah, we may not be sitting here having this conversation had I made a different decision.
Yeah.
Had I not put the gun down and called my parents, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and I think that was just amazing that your dad just dropped whatever he was doing and he came.
yeah. Yeah. I am forever grateful that their patience wasn't infinite, but it was enough, long enough
Long
that I
enough.
was able to figure it out for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's bottom is different. Another thing about not being proactive but being reactive is you actually can kind of help their bottom happen faster if you're not there to.
Constantly keep them from hitting it. Yeah. 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 I think if our listeners could take anything like away from this, is that it's important to listen. It's important to be present in somebody else's life. Like it just seemed like there were those pivotal moments in your life that there was somebody willing to listen and there was somebody willing to be present when you needed it most. Yeah. Yeah. And I hope that if they take anything away from this, just how valuable it is to exercise those qualities, those characteristics in interacting with other people. Because like you and I had discussed, like, you know, sure, there are people that look for churches because maybe they've moved to a new area, they're trying to find a new place. But I think the bulk of us, when we're looking for a church, is because we're in crisis. We need help. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Um, which brings me to this passage I thought of as I thought about your story, um, that reinforces being a listener, being present. It says in 2 Corinthians 1, verses 3 and 4, he says, "Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and God of all comfort." Verse 4, "who comforts us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort those who are in any trouble with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God." And there's this picture in that we who have gone through difficult periods in our life, we can be that person who will listen. We can be that person who will be present. Not just make a person feel welcome. That's great,
Right.
right? We need that. We need somebody to welcome us when we come into the church, but we need that step beyond. The person that will make themselves available and say, uh, I would love to hear your story. I would like to get to know you better. And that just becomes that open door for that kind of dynamic to happen.
Well, you're definitely quicker drawn to somebody who is actually interested in learning about who you are. You can make a better, deeper connection with another person if you actively want to get to know them.
Yeah. It seems basic, but
Yeah. It actually takes effort
yes.
to start. But once you started, then it doesn't take any effort to listen.
Yeah. But I think we all need that encouragement.
Absolutely.
We all need that encouragement that when we step into the doors of a church, to look for those opportunities. Because not everybody's going to feel comfortable enough to initiate them, right? So like people like us that have gone through things, we have that common ground that we can um, share with the people that are coming into God's house.
And they can listen without judgment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. We've seen it, been there, done that.
Right. Yeah. It's level footing at the cross. Right. We're all coming there as a wreck. So there's no need to pretend like, oh, that's just you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Jason, I want to thank you, man, for sharing your story. And I think
Well, next time the roles are reversed.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to that conversation. So this has been the No Rockstars podcast, and we want to thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.